Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans, for Ohio State fans from the West Coast. I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Thursday, August 10th, 2023, and today I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor Paige Van Horn from Denver. PVH.
My man.
How's it going, my friend?
It's going well, dude.
Good
nice
to be with you.
Talk with you. 22 minutes of tech support. Let's get this party started.
We are also joined by fellow contributor Chad Plummer from Cleveland. CP, what's the word from the 216?
What up, what up? How are you gentlemen doing? Happy summer, boys.
Likewise, my friend. Happy summer to you. Yeah, we'll have to put the 23 minutes of tech support that preceded this recording on our blooper reel or something on YouTube.
People are going to love that. They're going to love to hear that.
So we are now one full week into fall camp and only 23 days from the opener in Bloomington against Indiana. CP, you and I are both going to be there. We were just talking about it. I'm fired up, man. I can't wait.
Oh, Bloomington's 5-star, man. Good scene.
Awesome. Great. I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, the three of us will meet up a few weeks later in South Bend for the Indiana or for the Notre Dame game. So I'm super excited about next month, man.
Yeah, man. That's going to be fantastic. It's exciting times.
Exciting times. Yeah. I said a couple pods ago that I didn't see myself making 2 trips inside of a month from the West Coast to Indiana, but I'm pretty pumped about these 2 trips.
Optimism
I was
springs eternal.
I was sitting on the front porch at Paige's crib on Locust a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm gonna meet Z in South Bend." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "That's sweet. I'm definitely going down."
It's not what you know; it's who you know.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, big shout out to my coworker Ben Lampy, Notre Dame grad. He is
Ben. All right.
He is
All
gifting.
Right, Ben.
He is gifting Paige and I his tickets. So huge thanks
That's
to Ben.
great.
Good guy.
Do you think he'll have his season tickets revoked after he's hitting his teeth?
No, well, we will behave ourselves, Paige. We will be gentlemanly. We just for Ben's sake. So,
Yeah.
all right, boys.
We're adults now.
We're adults now.
53-year-old
Kind of,
adults.
sort of. So a couple topics I want to cover with you guys today. First, I want you both to weigh in on the addition of Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten and how you expect the conference to operate with 18 teams starting next year. I mean, I had a lot of questions to answer there. And then I'd like to spend a little time on what we're hearing out of fall camp around some key position battles, namely quarterback, offensive tackle, and safety. And then, of course, we can leave time at the end to touch on any other topics you guys want to discuss. So let's start with last week's bombshell that Washington and Oregon, who along with USC and UCLA, will be joining the Big Ten in 2024. PVH, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on the additions of the Huskies and Ducks to the Big Ten.
Stupid. Who cares? Like, it makes no sense. I mean, it only makes sense from a money perspective, but the whole thing is ludicrous at this point, right? So, yeah, I don't get it. I again, if you take money out of the equation, the whole thing is just, it's preposterous. And Chip Kelly actually had a good idea. Just as a football program, just be independent.
Yeah.
Right. Because we only think of it from the prism of the football lens, right?
Right.
That's the only way that we really look at it. And yeah, there's swimmers and wrestlers and baseball players and gymnasts, and we don't really give a shit about that. We should. I care a teeny bit, but the whole thing is just a money grab. There was a great article in the Athletic about just the complete buffoonery and mismanagement of the Pac-12 and how they ended up in this position.
Yes.
They should have, never been in this position. But the one thing that I texted you guys, the Pac-12 was dead the day Pete Carroll left USC and went to Seattle, because that's the last time really a Pac-12 team has been relevant. I think Washington made the playoff once.
They did. And Oregon did as well. Ohio State beat them in the national championship game. But I see your point.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. But they haven't cashed a chip. They haven't won a national championship. And, Pete Carroll made USC relevant, and it made it relevant to the rest of the country. But really, ever since then, in those couple of years when, Oregon was pretty good, nobody past right? Like what, 6 o'clock on the East Coast is paying any attention to what's going on in the West Coast. And it's all about money. It's all about eyeballs. And so they're not going to get the media deals that the Big Ten and the SEC get. And so, they completely screwed it up. And so, I mean, literally to me, it's a nothing burger. It matters not. I think USC and UCLA is kind of cool, but Oregon and Washington, it's a gigantic meh to me.
Wow. You're well, I wouldn't say you're down on it, but you seem just kind of indifferent about it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, Rutgers and Maryland, meh. Like,
oh wow,
you're people out.
Wow, you're putting them in the Rutgers and Maryland category. I don't know if I could go that far.
Yeah, but okay. All right, maybe not that bad, but I mean, I don't think they're going to be relevant.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You made a good point earlier about, maybe the other non-revenue sports should find a way to untether themselves from football. I mean, they need the revenue, right? There's no way they can exist without the revenue from football. But yeah, maybe schools' athletic departments need to start thinking about certain athletic departments, not all of them, certainly not an athletic department like Ohio State. I mean, the Olympic non-revenue sports can certainly follow football, and, it's a very healthy functioning athletic department. But in other instances, yeah, it probably makes sense for football to operate in one conference and the other non-revenue sports to operate a little bit more regionally, right?
Anyways, that's not the point. I guess the point from it's a football podcast. It's a nothing burger to me. Like literally, it's reached stupidity levels. Utah will be next, and like, okay, fine, right? But
Utah's going after the Big 12, so they won't
until they dissolve, and in 4 years, that's not even a conference.
Yeah. So CP. Let me get your take on this. What are your thoughts on Oregon and Washington joining the Big Ten?
I mean, I like it. I mean, Oregon, the Ducks, like they're a national brand. I mean, they're not Buckeyes or Alabama or Georgia, but they're a big time program.
Yep.
Washington Huskies, they've got that new coach out there, that new regime. I mean, I think it's like, I mean, all it is like you're trying like. They're just trying to power grab and money grab, like Paige said. I mean, like, it's eventually you're gonna get like sucked up. I mean, it's something it's inevitable, pretty much at the end of the day. I mean, I really don't know how it's all gonna work. I mean, I think it's kind of like bananas that like, you're gonna like fly, 1,500 miles for the volleyball team, or like whatever like else that's involved in NCAA sports, but.
No, that's a very long bus ride for the volleyball team to get.
Yes, it is, dude. For like fucking water polo.
To Seattle
shit,
to New Jersey for the Rutgers volleyball game.
But at least they're going to keep their scholarships, Oregon and Washington athletes, and they're going to be able to compete in their sports, because that shitty ass media rights deal that they put on the table last week, the Pac-12. I'm sorry, some of these schools would have had to cut certain sports. There's no way they could afford to operate with that crappy deal. I saw some, I think it was Washington softball players complaining on Twitter about the realignment and what is that going to mean for travel and other logistics. And I feel for them, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, you get to keep your scholarship, you get to continue to compete in your sport, and this is going to prep you for the real world, because if you've been out in the real world in the workforce for a while, then you've been a part of a corporate, a merger, your company gets bought, you get laid off, you get a new boss, you have to relocate because of a merger. So I mean, like, this is just capitalism at work, in my opinion, on many levels. Sorry, go ahead, CP.
Oh no, man, I'm done. I'm listening. I mean, it's just all crazy. Like, I'll tell you what, the president of the Pac-12 probably will not have a job within the next
oh god,
before school starts. He's probably they out there looking at Indeed.com.
yeah, or a consultant somewhere. The leadership of the Pac-12. I mean, Paige, back to your point real quick. I agree with you about USC being at the very least kind of, when Pete Carroll left USC, it was kind of the first domino to fall for the Pac-12. There was a ton of buzz around those Pete Carroll USC teams, right? A lot of national interest. It was must-see TV watching those teams. So I agree with you. At the very least, it was one of the first one or two dominoes to fall that's kind of led us to where we are today. And CP, I'm with you though, man. I kind of like this. I like this, and I think I see all kinds of exciting possibilities here. Like, you're adding 4 really respectable football programs: SC, Oregon, UCLA, and Washington. Clearly, SC and Oregon are the 2 best, the best of the 4. But I mean, I think what that's going to mean is better, more competitive conference football games that are going to be way more fun and interesting to watch than like Ohio State beating the snot out of Rutgers, right? I mean, I said this on last weekend's pod. Like, what would you rather watch? Would you rather watch Michigan go to Bloomington in a half-empty stadium and beat the shit out of the Hoosiers, or would you rather see Michigan go to Husky Stadium and play in a game that could go either way, right? A packed Husky Stadium. They've got great fans. So I do think that this will lend itself to a better on-the-field product because of the addition of these 4 teams. And I'm not going to argue your point, though, about, yes, absolutely, this is about eyeballs. It's about dollars. It was the networks, namely Fox, that dictated this move. But I'm an optimistic guy by nature, I guess, and I'm with you, CP. I kind of like it.
I seem to recall an Ohio State Oregon game that I was at with somebody in Ohio Stadium. You could schedule that anyways, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, every school has 4 games. They could schedule whoever they want. They choose to schedule Youngstown State, Kent State, and Western Kentucky.
Right.
And so, again, like Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, I mean, Northwestern's going to be, they won't even have a team probably for the next ever, right? I mean, that's just going to be over.
Well, they'll certainly be able to afford it because all those programs are getting full shares, and Rutgers, they ain't pulling their weight. I mean, it's crazy. Like they're getting a lot of money. These member institutions. Sorry, go ahead, PBH.
Which, and again, should be a separate pod. Then Ohio State should just go fucking independent. Say, screw you guys, right? We're tired of the albatross of Rutgers and Northwestern and Indiana around our neck. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about pure capitalism, the Ohio State network, please. Big Ten network. We'll see you later, Johnny.
Ohio State could certainly go independent. There's no question about it. I guess there's power in numbers. Ohio State has always loved being a part of the Big Ten. They could have gone independent during the COVID season, right, and chose not to. And they chose to play by the Big Ten's really strict and stringent COVID rules and protocols. So it's a point of pride for Ohio State, the leadership there, to be a part of the Big Ten. But I see your point. We certainly could go independent if we wanted to.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, okay, look down 5 years. If again, this is all about eyeballs and money, how long before these big programs say, well, what are we doing here? Right.
Could be. Yeah.
This is.
Yeah. It was crazy. A couple years ago where we were talking about 2 super conferences. It was 2 or 3. And that's clearly where we're headed now. The SEC and the Big Ten. And they have all the valuable television properties now in both conferences, with the exception of, Notre Dame is still out there. But that's about it. Everybody else is either with the Big Ten or the SEC.
Like, fuck Notre Dame.
No, dude, I totally disagree. Actually, I just got a ticker from the BDB. Heard it here first. In 2023, Ohio State will be independent.
They're on top of shit, man.
Yeah, they'll be independent by 2028. That's the new rumor.
All right, interesting. Okay, so we're gonna hold you to that, PBH. Ohio State independent by 2028. You see impending doom with the super conferences.
Jimmy Tressel.
All right. Well, so I think we have to address the reality of the situation, right? Regardless of how we feel about it, the reality is starting next year, the Big Ten is expanding to 18 teams. So my question is, how are they going to operate in this new environment with 18 teams? I mean, they were about to, the Big Ten going into 2024, get rid of divisions and just have the top 2 teams with the best overall records, duke it out in the Big Ten title game. But I think you've got to go back to divisions with that many teams. And I don't know. Am I crazy to think that? What do you think?
I have no earthly idea. It makes, once And that's kind of a little bit of an irony of the whole thing, is that once they finally came to their senses and got rid of divisions, now they're going to bring in 2 teams, and now you're telling me they're going to go back to divisions. I mean, I want to break a chair. Like, it's like, that's ridiculous. And the divisions were so bad,
yes,
and so, you know, heavily slated to the East versus the West, or the Legends versus the Legions, or whatever that was. If they have to go back to that, like, I mean, that would be awful. And so no, I'm assuming they're not going to do that, and they'll figure out a way to manage it.
Wow. Okay.
I'm glad I'm just not a scheduling coordinator for all that.
Oh my God. Yeah. You couldn't pay. Yeah. You couldn't pay me enough.
Dude.
Well, what do you think, CP? Do you think the Big Ten should reconsider divisions in 2024, or are you okay with no divisions, even with 18 teams?
No, I mean, I feel like there's gonna have to be divisions.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this isn't the Wild Wild West. You just can't have 18 teams. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like there's got to be some kind of like uniformity, and like, I mean, I can tell you what they whoever's making the decisions behind it need to be a little bit like evaluate and like digging deep a little bit than what they were, you know, this past time, the divisions.
Yeah, I agree.
Obviously, you've got a bunch of West Coast teams now, but then, you know, you've got Nebraska, and then you've got like Maryland, you know, Penn. Like, so there's going to be a lot of like, how do you make that work?
I think it's pretty simple. You maintain East and West, and you move all the Pac-12 teams that just joined into the West, and you have Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Wisconsin, the other northern powers in the division or in the conference, make up. They're the headliners, so to speak, in the in the East division. So you got East and West, and I think what you're going to see in most years is a replica of the Rose Bowl, but in the Big Ten title game. USC, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Wisconsin, Washington, and you could even host the Big Ten title game in the actual Rose Bowl, the venue.
That would be killer.
I think that would be pretty sweet.
Indianapolis, that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, you could alternate. I kind of like having Indy as one of the 2 sites, but this is what I said on the pod I recorded over the weekend. Like, you add the Rose Bowl as a venue on an alternating basis, and you just alternate every other year. But I think it's kind of cool that you can recreate what we loved about the Pac-12, or certainly what I loved about the Pac-12, was that matchup that we ultimately had with them in the Rose Bowl game. I mean, that's what we grew up watching, right? There's a lot of nostalgia there. Well, now you've shaved the top 4 teams off of the Pac-12 conference. They're coming to the Big Ten. You make a Big Ten West division with those 4 schools as the headliners, Big Ten East with the traditional Big Ten powers in the East, and then you fill them in with the remaining teams on either side. But the one thing I like about these divisions, it's what you could do now you couldn't do before, is you have competitive balance now, or some semblance of competitive balance between the 2 divisions that you couldn't really create before, right? Because, Paige, as you pointed out, all the power was concentrated in the East. I don't think that's going to be the case when you have the likes of USC and Oregon over in the West now. And, Washington can get a little frisky in a given year. It could be good. They're going to be good this year with Michael Penix Jr. and even UCLA for that matter, right? I mean, they have Chip Kelly. They're in LA. They're in a fertile recruiting ground, and maybe now their addition to the Big Ten might help recruiting and that sort of thing. I don't know, PBH. What do you think?
The main goal.
Heavy downer.
No, the main goal going forward after this year is getting as many teams as possible into the 12-team playoff.
Yep.
So how that shakes out, but that's your goalpost. That's your guiding light. And so whatever you do as a conference, right, that's what you're trying to accomplish. What that looks like, I have no idea. And right. I see your point. Like, yeah, it'd be great. There's a championship game in, the Rose Bowl. But I kind of disagree. Like, Lincoln Riley's at USC. I would be surprised if he's there for the long term, right? Oregon is, they've not been the same, since, Chip Kelly and the other guy. I mean, it balances it out some, but I don't think it completely balances it out with Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, in the East. So, whatever. just figure out the way to get the most teams from the conference into the playoff going forward, and that's probably how they're going to try and manage it.
I think that's probably what they're going to do. And it also seems obvious to me that you have to move now to a 10 conference game scheduling format with 2 non-conference games. Because if you have this many teams, I think you have to play as many conference games as you can. So in my view, I think it's got to be 10 plus 2 non-conference. And I think you can go to that format because of the addition of these 4 quality teams from the Pac-12. I think you can go to that format if you're Ohio State without any worries that about strength of schedule for your playoff resume. I think the average Big Ten schedule for someone like Ohio State, for instance, where in this this mythical divisions that I've created here of West and East, you got Ohio State playing Penn State, Michigan, and Wisconsin every year, and a crossover game with one of the 4 powers from the West, be it Oregon or USC. I mean, that's going to be plenty good on the strength of scheduling front, right? For your playoff resume, I would think. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you want to see 10 conference games and you chuck one of those, non-conference cream puffs, or do you want to see a 9 game conference slate with 3 non-conferences? What do you think, CP?
I feel like where college football, the direction it's heading, and the future that is that you need to start scheduling as many, at least 2 solid outside of the conference, like an SEC school. Maybe you throw in a cream puff in there, but then you've got 18 teams in this conference. So
right. Yeah. So I personally think you've got to play 10 conference games. And I think you do actually have to be careful about who you schedule in the non-conference, because the Big Ten Conference is a lot tougher conference to win now. I think I don't think that's even debatable. I mean, you're adding USC and Oregon, never mind Washington and UCLA. If you're just adding USC and Oregon to that,
it's Lincoln Riley too. I mean, that's a whole nother.
Yeah,
it's not been relevant since Jim Carroll, but they're way relevant now, man, because they're bringing in some big time fucking kids.
Yeah, they got the best player in the country. I don't know. What do you think, Paige? Do you think 10 games in this new world that we're entering in 2024, or are you okay with the 9-3 split when it comes to conference versus non-conference?
No, that probably makes sense. I mean, and again, you're keeping the money in the conference, but sorry for the Kent States of the world, right? They're not going to get their paydays, right? So what are the ramifications downstream to those schools? I don't know.
Yeah, well, they'll have to find.
It's a new world. And again, I was thinking about, the strength of schedule, and to Chad's point, he's like, yeah, look at Michigan's schedule. It's a joke. And the only school I think that has an easier road to the playoff is Georgia. It's embarrassing, but yet they're still 1 and 2, right? Like preseason polls. And I know preseason polls don't really matter, but where does objectivity come into play? Like strength of schedule, if there's only, 4 teams that are going to get in for this year. And then what does that mean down the road? Right. I mean,
yeah.
So,
well, the 12 team playoff is going to be a different animal. And I believe the format is they take the 6 conference championships, conference champions, right? The 6 highest rated conference champions, and then 6 at-large teams. I believe that's how it works. But now
Notre Dame, see, there you go. They're Notre Dame. That's bullshit. So they're going to be
Well, this was the other
thing. They get in every year.
It could be, yeah. I mean, I would think so. And but what I was going to say was, the Pac-12 now is eliminated. They were originally one of the 6 conferences that would have been considered here in this new format with the 12-team format. So what I think Ohio State has effectively done is they've grabbed some playoff market share by taking the Pac-12's top 4 teams. The Pac-12 conference is gone. There's no way that you can ignore that USC, Oregon, Washington, and UCLA are now in the Big Ten. So I think they have to rethink how they're going to be distributing these playoff spots. And I also think that we're clearly headed to a 16-team playoff after the 2026 season. So the schedules for the 2024 and 2025 playoff, 12-team playoff have already been set. But after that, they'll have an opportunity to, reevaluate the field. And I think we're clearly headed to 16 teams. And I also think that the SEC and Big Ten combined will get at least half of those slots. At least half.
They should.
And they should. Yeah, for sure. They should.
Did Utah go to the Big 12?
I didn't include the Big 12, but I think the Big 12 will get
No,
one.
I'm just saying. I think did Utah actually join the Big 12?
Yes, they did, along with Arizona and Arizona State. So that was also part of what happened last week when Oregon and Washington joined the Big 10. Those three schools joined up with the Big 12, and then a week or so earlier than that, Colorado also went back to the Big 12, and that's why that was the death blow to the Pac-12.
It's a good vehicle for Utah, man. They'll probably be at the top of that conference every year.
I would think so, but I can't imagine that conference getting any more than one. This new world that we're in, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have a lot of power, a lot of say in how things go from here on out. They're going to have a lot of influence over the college football playoff. And, when you look at the schools that occupy both, make up both conferences, I think you're going to have at least 8 teams combined from those two conferences if you want to create a compelling playoff, I think. PVH, any other thoughts on this brave new world that we're heading into in 2024?
No, I think we did a good job. We beat that horse to death. So.
How about you, CP? Anything you want to share as we look forward to 2024 about the new Big Ten?
What is that, a Guinness?
Yes, it is.
Oh my.
So I'll take that as a no, CP. You don't have anything else that you want to share about the 2020.
I'm good. I'm just excited to be on here. The conference alignment, that's cool. I'm ready to start talking about
real football, like what's happening on the field.
Football.
What a novelty that is, right?
Makes me smile.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what we're hearing out of fall camp. Ohio State's first full scrimmage is this coming weekend. I think it's Saturday. So we're gonna know a lot more about how certain position battles are shaking out after that. Now, let's just talk briefly about the quarterbacks, guys. Now, my understanding is that Kyle McCord and Devin Brown are still splitting first-team reps, but, we're going to see after this weekend if there's going to be any separation, after that scrimmage. Now, my gut still says this is going to be a competition. I think Brown is going to push McCord, but gun to my head, I still think McCord probably wins it. CP, I want to start with you. What is your gut telling you about this quarterback competition, and who do you like to win it?
I really find it hard to believe that it's not Kyle McCord. He's been at the program for what? This is
now 3 years, going into 3
years under Ryan Day.
Yeah.
He's got chemistry with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Good point. They were high school teammates.
Yeah, everything I've read, most of the play, not most, but all the players love him. I guess from what I've read as well, Devin Brown's he's a baller. He can move his feet, but at the end of the day, here's what I don't want to happen. Okay, so McCord gets the job, all right, which I think there's probably a 98% chance that he's going to get the job.
Okay, wow, you're confident. Okay.
I think there's no chance in how Brown's going to start over McCord.
Okay.
But whatever, who knows? Crazier things have happened. But what I don't want to happen, Z, is that the fact that whoever comes out there, whether it's Brown or McCord, okay, and first couple games a little bit rusty, and then I want everybody's calling for the other either or who didn't start to get get some time.
Right.
That's what I don't want.
I'm with you.
Who I would trust his opinion and everything he's been seeing, for the last how many months and years with McCord. But he made a decision. If he has one bad game against Youngstown State or whoever else, let's just everybody chill the fuck out. Breathe. There's no.
This is coming from the guy that complained about CJ Stroud for 18 months.
No,
you are aware of that, right?
No, I did not complain about CJ for 18 months.
Dude,
I remember somebody wanting the mullet.
You finally didn't settle on CJ Stroud until about halfway through his second year as a starter.
Well,
you remember this, don't you, buddy?
It's no, I think I wanted. Yes, I'll admit I wanted to see Quinn get an opportunity. But you know
Winnie
what?
Quinn,
Hey,
your BFF. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if I had to endure one more text about Quinn
He's
Ewers
got
from
no
you,
more mullet. The mullet is gone.
so you can stick your I don't want Ohio State fans to
Yeah.
get down on
All I'm
Kyle McCord right
saying,
up your
dude, is
cornhole, bro.
well, it's like we'll get into this because we're going to talk about like a brief recruiting later. I'm so tired of hearing about these Ohio State fans. Like you today, like when are we going to get a fucking dude? Like, dude, we just got a 5-star fucking defensive line. We got a 5-star cornerback. We got I don't know. Do you not read we're getting players. We've lost a couple players. Like we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. We'll get into recruiting. Okay, so your money is still on Kyle McCord. You're very confident, but you don't want to see a quarterback controversy 2 or 3 games into the season.
No,
I'm totally with you, CP. I want the guy that wins it in camp to seize the job and leave no doubt that he's the man. How about you, PBH?
I'll take the other side of the coin just to be an antagonist to Chad. And I would say, hey, look, if you're McCord, you've been there for 3 years. If you're not good enough to have won the job by now, you're probably not good enough to be the quarterback at Ohio State. I mean, it's a different way to look at it.
Well, I mean, he was sitting behind C.J. Stroud, the highest drafted quarterback in Ohio State history.
Dane's just mind fucking
Yeah.
He knows who the fuck is starting.
He very well might be. He very well might be. And I have no earthly idea who, could be, should be, will be the quarterback. None of us do. Even the guys that sit there, that are the beat writers have any clue.
Not yet. Although it's too early.
Yeah, I'll just say, hey, man, if he's as good as advertised and truly was a 5-star, then this shouldn't even be a debate.
Yep.
But he hasn't separated himself. So to say that Brown doesn't have a shot, I think is crazy. And I think it was I forget. I think it was Doug who had a good point. Like, as for as much shit as we give old, Jim Harbaugh, he said, I'm not going to name a quarterback, starter until the 3rd game of the year last year.
He did last year.
He actually benched a quarterback that made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, it turned out to be the right decision with J.J. McCarthy. I don't have any problem with both of those guys playing 50-50 of the snaps.
Wow.
The first 3 games and then going into Notre Dame.
You can't do that against Indiana.
Yes, you can. You can totally do that. If you don't know, then you don't know. Mm-hmm. If he knows, then pick a guy.
If you don't know, now you know.
If you don't know, now you know.
Man, well, I guess
Biggie Smalls ain't the coach of this team. So,
right.
You can't simulate these things. That's all that they say. You can't simulate it in practice and blah, blah, blah. All right, well, then you get 3 games to figure it out. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
What's the problem?
I think we're all just spinning around and we're in a quicksand sandbox right now because Day knows that McCord is the fucking man, and he knows that McCord is going to lead us to a national championship run. He knows damn well that Brown's not going to be starting over McCord. I would almost guarantee. I would bet my left kidney, which is probably about 80 grand on the black market. I mean, my liver's probably 45, but my kidney 80. I'd be willing to bet that.
Wow. Okay, you're confident.
He knows McCord's going to take us down the field.
I have the utmost faith in Ryan Day. I mean, all the variables that you need for success are there, right? You've got the recruiting profiles of both players. These are top 50 players. And in the case of McCord, he's a 5-star. You have the quarterback guru, Ryan Day, is still there. And you have an embarrassment of riches of skill talent players around the quarterback. So I trust the situation. I don't know which player exactly is going to win it. I'm leaning McCord. You put a gun to my head. But I trust the situation that they have at quarterback. But I guess I have a conventional view of quarterback, which is you want it settled in the offseason and you want that guy to seize the job. And I don't like the idea of changing quarterbacks midstream. Paige, you're comfortable with it. Harbaugh kind of, showed us a proof of concept that you can actually have a quarterback competition, linger into the regular season. But I'd prefer to have it settled before the regular season starts. All right, fellas.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
I can't. I really it does something to the insides of me that brown, like wearing number 33. That's not
That's
cool.
true.
I'm sorry.
It is a
No.
little weird. He looks like a linebacker playing quarterback. He's wearing
Yeah,
James
it's like,
Laurinaitis' number, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, that's what I was going to guess. The same thing that came to my head. Laurinaitis is in a QB, man.
But what if he turned out to be really, really good and he's wearing 33? That could be kind of cool.
I love it.
That's like Doug Flutie
Now,
wearing number 22, right? Didn't Flutie wear like 22? His number was in the 20s.
Now, did you see that our true freshman quarterback, Lincoln Heinold, got the USA Today Offensive Player of the Year?
He's an interesting prospect, Keenholz.
Yeah.
I love that guy's athleticism, and he seems like a dude for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have a look at the offensive line real quick. Now, Ryan Day was interviewed yesterday, and he said they are experimenting with different combinations at offensive tackle. I think we can safely say that the interior of the offensive line is pretty locked down, right? I think they're solid there. They have experienced guys they like on the interior. It's really a question of who's going to play on the outside. And Day said yesterday they are experimenting with different combinations at offensive tackle. Now, Josh Fryer, who many thought was a lock at left tackle, has actually been spending time at both tackle positions so far during camp. And yesterday, Ryan Day mentioned that Jimmy Simmons, formerly known as Josh, the artist formerly known as Josh Simmons, now Jimmy Simmons, the SDSU transfer, he says they're really excited about Simmons. But he also mentioned Luke Montgomery, the true freshman, and Tegra Shabola as other candidates. So it seems like they're experimenting with a bunch of different combinations there. Seems like it's going to be a fluid situation. But are we concerned that a true freshman in Montgomery is already in the mix for a starting job? I don't know. PVH, what do you think of that? To me, that's kind of a red flag, unless we're talking about fucking Orlando Pace.
Oh, I don't agree.
Oh, it totally is, right? I mean, they've been whiffing on offensive linemen for years with stud.
Right.
Like if it's not like it's it's one of those positions where literally age, size, experience really matters. That's why, guys, you hardly ever see it, right?
Yep.
You hardly ever see it.
You say
defensive
hardly.
line and offensive line, those freaks that are freshmen,
Very
right? Because
rarely.
by the way, they're coming in at like 17, and you're telling me there's a 17-year-old that's better than a 21-year-old that's been in the program for
That's
4
a red
years?
flag.
That's a humongous red flag. Humongous.
But CP, you're less concerned.
I disagree. Like they're saying like Montgomery, and have you actually watched his film, Paige?
No,
Like he's
dude,
like
stop. You're
dude,
not
he
watching any
pancakes,
film,
bro.
bro. Stop it.
whatever, dude.
And even if you're watching
you
it,
don't
you
know.
think you're watching Breaking Bad. What do you know about Breaking Down film?
Oh boy, I'll tell you what, dude. I know, like it doesn't matter. Like it's not a red flag. The kid's a stud. He's a baller. So if he breaks the top 6, like as a true freshman, fuck yeah. That means he's a fucking legit ass motherfucker. That's
All
right.
That very well could be true, but it's a gigantic red flag that we don't have 2 or 3 other guys on the depth chart that have been in the program for 3 or 4 years that have been in Mickey Mirati's program eating hot dogs and baked beans, and he's turning them into men. And then some kid comes in from Lakewood and he's better than all of them. What's the problem?
Dude, that happens, bro.
No, it doesn't.
Not.
No,
Well,
actually really doesn't.
There is a reason why Ohio State went out to the transfer portal and brought in Vic Cutler and Jimmy Simmons, right? They were a little light on the depth chart there. I tend to agree with you, Paige, that it is a red flag if Montgomery is truly being considered for one of these spots. Now, the other possibility, and Bill Landis mentioned this, I think it was yesterday, that he might be trying to motivate one of the more veteran players by mentioning Montgomery is in the mix. So maybe what he's trying to do in the case of Jimmy Simmons, for example, is get him to recognize the moment, the urgency of the moment. Like, hey, man, you got to step up. But I got no problem with Montgomery making the 2 deep. But I would be worried if it's a true freshman not named Orlando Pace or Paris Johnson Jr., getting meaningful snaps.
Who's to say that he's not one of those?
You're right.
So until we see him play, we can't say anything about a red flag.
That's a good point.
Because he could be a Paris Johnson or an Orlando Pace.
Okay. All right.
That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough. Well, listen, it's too early to hit the panic button here. I mean, they haven't even had an 11-on-11 scrimmage, which happens this week, and we're going to know a lot more, I think, But this is absolutely a huge position battle. I mean, probably second only to quarterback. This is the most important position battle, I think, on the offensive side of the ball. They have to figure out who's going to be the other tackle opposite Josh Fryer. Now, Fryer, I think, is a lock at one of the two spots. Then it's just a matter of, Simmons, Shabola, or Montgomery locking down the other side. Paige, were you going to say something about the O-line?
Yeah, I was going to say, and actually I was thinking about it, and it's kind of a question, not to sabotage your
no, go ahead.
podcast here, but what do you think what concerns you the most, or what's the biggest X factor? Because we know we're going to be really good, right?
Yeah.
But what puts Ohio State over the top to actually win a national championship?
Yeah.
Offensive line, the quarterback, or Jim Knowles?
Man, Jim Knowles, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Defense. The defense is the only thing that's kept us from winning a national championship. I don't know.
Without question.
We could have won the national championship last year.
All right, so you're Jim Knowles.
Same here. I mean, listen, I've been banging on Jim Knowles and the defense all off season. There's no way I could pick anything else. And I've just said that I have the ultimate trust in the quarterback situation, given the assets that we have at Ohio State, right? You have Ryan Day, the quarterback guru, the embarrassment of riches around the quarterback, and then, the two guys vying for the job have the recruiting profiles, the talent to get it done. So I trust the situation with quarterback. I'm also very concerned about offensive line, but if I have to only pick one, I'm saying the defense is the most important of those three. What's your take on it, PBH?
Offensive line. I mean, I agree with you. They'll figure out the quarterback. I think the defense is stacked, right? The
talent's there for sure.
There's so many top flight players on that defense.
Yes. Oh.
And if they're bad, if it costs them a game within the first 6, then I'm on your camp to get rid of the guy, right? There's something fundamentally wrong here. No more excuses for the defense. Offensive line, man, that's what makes the team go, right? It's what makes Trey run through those holes. Chad's BFF.
Oh, dude. Don't even get me started about Trey. He's going to be an All-American this year.
We're glossing over the fact that we lost 3 starters, and we're thinking about starting as a true freshman, right? When those guys start coming through the line, it doesn't matter if it's
they're not talking
Montgomery.
about starting. They're just talking about him being in the top 6 rotation.
Yeah, but I'm worried about the offensive line.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's too early to hit the panic button. Still a long way to go in fall camp. I think it'll definitely be a fluid situation, at least for a couple weeks, at offensive tackle. But I see your point, PBH. Listen, it is absolutely important. I was only able to pick one. The defense loss cost us a national championship last year. I'm clearly on record about that. But you make a good point.
Multiple times.
And then some. You do make a good point. I mean, the talent is there defensively, and but there are a lot of questions at offensive line. I don't think they're working with the wealth of talent that they are on defense. Well, speaking of defense, let's have a look at the Ohio State secondary and what we're hearing out of fall camp there. Now, I was thrilled to hear that safeties Jihad Carter and Sonny Styles are running with the first team defense. And if you listen to this podcast, you guys well know.
Sonny Styles, baby.
I was really concerned about the fact that Josh Proctor and Cam Martinez were running with the ones after the spring. I've very well documented my concerns about those two players playing major roles in the secondary, but it appears, at least for now, Eliano and Knowles have seen the light. Styles and Carter as the starters, along with Lathan Ransom. Interestingly, they're going to try and use Styles at cover safety, so that slot corner role. Carter's going to be the deep safety, so where Jordan Fuller had played, and they're going to keep Lathan Ransom near the line of scrimmage, playing that bandit role, the strong safety role that he played last year. But I like what I'm hearing about safety. PVH, your thoughts about safety?
All you hear is Sonny Styles, Sonny Styles, Sonny Styles.
Yeah,
that's it, right? It's like a broken record. That guy better be good. I hope he's good.
The kid's a stud.
Yeah, no, I know. He's going to be a stud.
A lot of buzz. A lot of buzz.
Yeah,
around him.
And you mentioned Jordan Fuller. How many mistakes did that guy cover up? For
the eraser.
Defense?
Yeah,
the eraser for years and years and years.
Yep.
So yeah, they're going to be hopefully much improved. I mean, it sounds like they got 3, very capable corners and 3 very capable safeties,
I agree.
have them on the field, right? Play
Yep.
your best players along with CJ Hicks.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're all the buzz is around Sonny Styles. And by the way, isn't he like 18? Like, it's astonishing.
It's
Like,
astonishing. Yeah.
They said
you
his
could be
little
that
brother's
young
looking
and
good
that
too.
talented.
Yeah, Lorenzo is actually his older brother. He's the one that
Yeah, he
transferred from Notre
transferred from
Dame.
Notre
He's
Dame.
converting from wide receiver to cornerback, which they say is his more natural position. CP, any
That
thoughts?
defensive backfield, our room is like it's deep.
Yeah, I agree. So you're feeling good about safety as well. I'm actually really confident. Hearing the news that Carter and Styles have been elevated to the first team.
Yeah, I'm excited about, like, I'm a nose supporter. Like, I said I'd give him 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some bad obviously coverages and some decisions made, but I think he's going to redeem himself this year.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, yeah, I think the talent just might
about it, defense.
the talent might just be too big for him to fail this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make me coach. I can do that. Just put me in there. It's like, what do we do? Again? You know what? Actually give him a raise to $3 million. He deserves it, because if the talent is so good,
Right.
just give him a raise, right? Him and Mickey and all the other clowns that they have on that coaching staff.
Yeah, well, we can get into this in a second, but there are real concerns about the construction of the defensive coaching staff, right? I mean, you've kind of hamstrung yourself with only 4 defensive coaches, and you're giving a full-time coaching position to a fucking bozo special teams coach. Anyway, before we get to that, though,
I heard the guy, the defense is really like starting to respect, and he's like really gelling is Walton.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's go to the corners. And Paige, you mentioned this earlier. Look, they feel really good about the 3 top guys that they have in that room, and I'm talking about Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, and the transfer Davis and Igbinosun. We'll see how they look when the bullets start flying, but I think they've achieved exactly what they were hoping to when they went into the portal and they brought in Igbinosun. He's really helped elevate the play in that room, and of course, having all these dudes healthy for once, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, injuries absolutely killed that room last year. PBH, I'm going to kick this back to you. Any thoughts on cornerback?
I think they're all good. Let's see what they can do on the field. I mean, it's all hypothetical at this point, right? There's no excuse. There's no excuse that's not a top 10 defense. It's no excuse that it's not a top 5 defense.
Agreed.
Top 6, right? Across the board.
Agreed.
Right. And if something is amiss and it doesn't happen again, then there's a bigger problem at play. There's no way, with the amount of talent in that backfield and the guys that transfer in, transfer out, right, that you're not fielding at a high state of top 6 secondary defense, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, otherwise we're talking about structural, systemic issues, and I really hope we don't have to go there. How about you, CP? What are your thoughts on this cornerback room? These guys are looking pretty damn good, I have to say.
So I like it, man. Like Brown, like Burke, I mean, Hancock. There's just like, I feel like the like you mentioned, the top 3 out of the room, like, I keep them healthy.
Yeah.
Like that's
huge.
I feel good about the guys that are like in the wings, ready, like on the sideline. Like, so I haven't felt that fuzzy in a while.
I mean,
defensive backfield.
I'm with you. I think the cornerback could be a strength for this defense for the first time since 2019. I don't think that's hyperbole. I mean, I do think they could be about that good. I don't know if there's a Jeff Okudah in this group, but I think, short of that, it's still going to be a really, really good room, I think, for Ohio State this year.
I think Paige made a good point earlier about, just like there is a ridiculous amount of talent on that defense.
It really is.
But I'm like, I feel like Knowles, like he had a real like deep, every morning brushing his teeth is like, I really fucked this up. I think he got in a little fucking deep real quick. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think he took this like off season after that loss to Georgia, and obviously
to Michigan,
it's the other atrocious like plays that we gave up throughout the season. But I think he's going to be good. And like, I mean, when you do have that kind of talent, and I think he has you can't argue the fact that he doesn't have a good defensive mind. You know what I mean? Like his schemes are good. I think he needed to adjust with Ohio State instead of just coming in and what worked at Oklahoma State, like whatever. But I think it's going to be good. I mean, they're saying Tumalo is just like way beyond Thunderdome. He's even bigger beast than he was last year. They said Sawyer is going to be back into his natural position this year, not looking lost out there, because the guy was a 5-star defensive player, and he hasn't played up to his potential, and I feel like half of that was the defense last year. I mean, I don't know, but there's so much talent on that defense. Will Smith, I mean, you could just go on and on.
Yeah,
it's just exciting. So hopefully it gets coached up, and it all gels together this year.
I hope so. I want to be able to feel the defense a little bit more than we did last year, and I expect more than just getting off the field, on third down. Although I'd like to see them be better than that. But
the defense.
So I looked through just a couple podcasts ago, but I actually looked through Ohio State's defensive production since 2012 during the Meyer and Day eras, and last year's defense turned in the fewest number of takeaways during the Meyer and Day eras. Only 18 takeaways, only 34 sacks. That was the third lowest total since 2012 in the Meyer and Day eras. It was not a very impactful defense. And I actually think that, my shorthand for these types of plays is splash plays, sacks, tackles for loss, and takeaways. And they were not very impactful in those areas. I want to see a defense that's attacking, creating explosive splash plays. I want to see more takeaways. I want to see them getting after the quarterback. I want to hear about goddamn quarterback pressures. Bring the fucking guy down. And Tuimoloau, he's
now,
still
Z's serious when he's dropping the F-bomb.
And we saw flashes from Tuimoloau. I want to see consistency. And Jack Sawyer hasn't done shit yet. I mean, he's got the great recruiting profile. He looks great in the uniform, but, I want to see Mike Hall play 12 games. I want to see 40, 45 snaps out of him. This defense needs to put it together. I feel like we haven't seen something special from a Ohio State defensive line in a very long time. Certainly not since Chase Young, and he was a singular great talent. But I think you have to go all the way back to 2017 since we had a really special defensive line. So that's the benchmark I'm setting for the defensive line this year. Show me the same kind of production we saw in 2017. That means they're going to have to produce about 10, 11 more sacks, an extra 25 tackles for loss, an extra 7 or 8 takeaways. That's the standard I'm setting for this defense, and it starts with the defensive line. I'm sick of talking about the potential. I want to see the production. The production needs to match the hype this year. I feel really strongly about that, as you can tell. PVH.
I would just love for us to get through that first game and the following week after Bloomington, the pod, and we're all right. It's just the first game, guys, but that defense, they looked like they were a unit.
I don't know, man. I want to see them do it when it really matters. That's what I want to see, because they look great for 9 games last year.
Shit, and then all of a sudden,
they look like world beaters for 9 games last year, and then when they started playing offenses with a pulse, they look like shit. So I want to. They're actually going to face much better offenses this year. They're going to see much better quarterback play. I think they have a tougher schedule this year, so there'll be opportunities earlier in the schedule to really show significant improvement. But
I think
do it when it counts.
What I was trying to say is that I want them to come out as a unit that looks like they are ready to ball out into the 23 season.
Me too. So what does that look like when you say ready to ball out? What benchmarks are you setting?
We're going in just big plays giving up. We're infamous. First series of the game in Bloomington, we give up a 45, 50-yard pass, or their running back just chews up turf. We've got the unit to not let that happen, and I just want it to happen. Like you said earlier, it's been I'm just so tired of every season. It's the same shit with the defense, man. Even before Knowles, it was just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what is going on here?
Yeah,
You know what
during
I
the
mean?
Ryan
I
Day
just-
era, he's had one good defensive season, and that was 2019. I agree with you. I'm setting the bar a little higher than that, though. I mean, not giving up 75-yard touchdowns is a pretty low bar. I want a defense that is attacking, producing turnovers
Right.
and
I want that to
tackles for loss,
happen
that sort of thing.
on September 2nd. Like,
Yep.
you know, there's no pass. There's no pass until like we get to the Big Ten, whatever. No, like I want to dominate this defense right out of the gate.
Yep.
Like those motherfuckers are like ballers. Like you
I
said,
agree.
Quarterback pressure, like sacks, like, you know, knockdown passes, like, you know, interceptions, turnovers, like takeaways. Like I want that like out of
Yeah.
the gate, right out of the beginning.
Well, I mean, I think in the modern era that's dominated by offense, I think that's the type of defense that you have to have. The reality is you're going to give up points and yards. So, you know, long gone are the days of winning games, you know, 13-7 and 10-6 like they did back in 2002, right? So your defense is going to give up plays, they're going to give up yards and points, but it has to be able to produce big plays of their own to counter the offense, and there just wasn't enough of that last year. So I think I've made my point here. I'm kind of beating that dead horse. PVH, I want to kick this back to you.
Like I get it, D. Like you're very like the defense is like, you know, very sensitive. I mean, it's sensitive for all of us, but like I think you take it to another, which I love. I mean, like, we all, as big of fans as we are, like we just need a defense, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like just like, damn.
You're singing to the choir, my friend. Yes, absolutely. PVH, any other thoughts about the Ohio State defense before we move on?
No, just last thing I would say is I want to see a lockdown corner.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think when you have a lockdown corner, you can do so much as a coordinator, right? Like I don't have to worry about that guy or that, you know, unless you're, you know,
roaming somebody else. But yeah.
Right. And then it opens it up. And we haven't had that since Akuta. And
That's
I think,
right.
you know, that makes it a gigantic difference. Now you could make the argument that Chase Young made Akuta better. But if you had like Burke or Hancock or the guy from Mississippi, I can't pronounce his name, right? Give me a lockdown corner, and then, you know, the opportunities are endless. There's so many playmakers on that defense.
Yep.
But again, it's all hyperbole. It's all, I want to see it on the field, right? No more excuses, no more mistakes.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah, you can take a lot more
Right,
risks when you have guys that can lock up receivers in coverage, right? Even just that extra splits, that extra second of coverage will allow your defensive ends to get home and your defensive front to get home. You can take a lot more risk. You can be a lot more creative when you have those dominant cover corners. That is a good
point right there, Zach. It's like the schemes that Knowles, like, you know, like pressuring, like, you know, quarterback and like blitzing this and that. Like if you do have, Paige point as well, like the lockdown corner that you have confidence in, then you can do that kind of shit. I mean,
yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree. So I'm expecting big things. I'm very optimistic that we're going to see another huge jump for the defense. I just think the talent is too big to fail. And look, I give Ohio State credit for going into the portal and getting some dudes that are, you know, we're already hearing about them in fall camp. Jihad Carter, Davison Igbinosun. Taiwan Malone is a guy, the defensive tackle, also an Ole Miss travel. He's a transfer from Ole Miss, is also turning heads. They've gone out and got impactful players to supplement the talent that was already there. So I give them a ton of credit for that. And you know, you also
didn't the kid from how do you say his last name, from Mississippi?
Igbinosun, the corner.
Igbinosa, and said that. Did I read today that he's, you know, going up against Marvin in practice?
Yeah,
and
said he's holding his own.
50?
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, okay. All right. You're talking some smack on the boy.
oh,
now, whether or not it's actually true, you gotta love the style, right? As a corner, you have to have the supreme confidence in yourself, even if maybe it's not.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Bro. I'm kind of like, all right, bro. That's some heady talk, man. Let's see that on the field, baby.
Yeah.
Because if you can lock down Marvin 50% of the time, then hell yeah, I'm all for it. But okay, I want to see it.
I think the secondary is going to be very good. We feel very good about linebacker, right? with Eichenberg and Chambers, and a little sprinkling of Cody Simon and the young 5-star CJ Hicks. We feel very good about what they have up front on the defensive line. I mean, Jim Knowles, like, you got no excuses, man. Year 2, these guys know your scheme, and I'm optimistic. Believe me, I want to stop giving Jim Knowles a hard time. Believe me, if he can shut me up, I'd be very happy about that.
Well, I tell you what, like, I think I think Steel Chambers will, like, start out, but, like, I don't think, like, he'll be playing much in, like, the second half of the year.
I mean,
don't get me wrong. I give all respect to Steel Chambers. You know, he's a good learner, but there's no way that you're going to be able to keep CJ Hicks off the field. No way.
One area I will give Jim Knowles a lot of credit. He is the coach of the linebackers, and they played very, very well. I mean, Eichenberg, I think he got every bit of potential and production out of Eichenberg and Chambers last year, and I trust what he's doing in the linebacker room. And don't sleep on Cody Simon either. They've been singing his praises too. A lot of buzz around Cody Simon, so I feel really good about what they have there on defense. So a lot of reason for optimism.
Like, he's, like, young. There's a lot of, like, linebackers that are gonna, like, be in, like, taking us back to, like, linebacker before we started getting running backs converted to linebacker.
Future is definitely bright. So, all right, I want to circle back to something
Zach
real
Moore?
quick.
You talking about Zach?
Gabe Powers. I mean, Mitchell Melton, dude. I think there's going to be.
Yeah. The future's bright. Those guys probably aren't going to see much playing time this year. There's a little too much depth, but certainly the future, there are opportunities there for those kids. Hey, I want to circle back to something real quick. So, Paige, last time you and I talked on this pod, we gave our regular season, prediction for Ohio State, the regular season record projections for Ohio State. You had them going 10-2. I have them going 11-1. Do you still see 10-2 for this team based on what we've talked about today?
It's a rough schedule, man.
Yeah. That
back-to-back with Penn State and Wisconsin, and Michigan's going to be a motherfucker on the road.
I agree.
So yeah, I'll say I'd like to hedge it, but I'm not going to. But I'll stick with 10-2, and let's still make the playoffs somehow.
10-2, but it sounds like maybe you're teetering toward 11-1, but you're going to stay at 10-2 right now.
Yeah. Well, again, I think we're we get caught up in all this. Like, there's 3 very, very big question marks of this team coming into the season. We glossed over the fact that we're Ohio State and we have a ton of talent, but we're starting a new quarterback. We're not quite sure who that's going to be.
Right.
We're replacing 3 starters on the offensive line, and we have a defensive coordinator that one person on this podcast thinks should have been fired. So,
guilty as charged.
Saying, and we've got a very hard schedule. So 11-1 is a pretty rosy, way to look at it, in my opinion. So
I'm not going to argue with any of that. I mean, you've made a sound argument for 10-2. How about you, CP? What is your regular season prediction for Ohio State? Regular season.
I will be disappointed if we're not 11-1.
In the regular season,
if we happen to go 10-2, I think we still get in the playoff. I mean, this team has got enough talent this year. I mean, we did last year, but, like, we got I think not maybe way more, but, like, extensively more talent on both sides of the ball to win a national championship this year.
So your regular season record prediction for Ohio State is what?
I think, like, me, like, I don't think we're going to lose a game, but, like, I'm going to say, like, 11-1. I think we're going to go undefeated, honestly.
Okay. Really I love it. All right. 12-0. I love it. I mean, that's also very possible. That's the funny thing. I think you can make a compelling argument for anything between 10-2 and 12-0. You can talk me into any 3 of those.
You know what? One game is like I'm more concerned about probably than any other game is the night game in Wisconsin with up there coaching, man. I because that's always like I've been to that place a couple times. I was there when prior we were number 1 in the country.
Oh yeah, 2010.
It's one of the worst days ever.
Yeah.
Like that's so. I mean that game kind of like scares me, but like we're way beyond that.
And that's after Penn State.
That's after Penn State.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying. That schedule's
at least we got Penn State at home, right?
We do, but then we got to turn right around and play, Wisconsin on the road. That's tough. I mean, that part of the schedule I'm worried about. At PBH, I know you are as well.
It's a 3:30 game though with Penn State, right?
It is, but the fact
but the point is that you're coming off.
Well, no, I know
and
it's
then
back
you're
to
going
back,
to-
like games
and
that
by the
we
way,
have
it's
historical.
It's Halloween.
Halloween in Madison,
Which,
that place
like,
is going to.
And Madison, oh my
Halloween
God, now
weekend.
that is a game, dude. That place is fantastic. Oh my God, dude, we got to talk about going to that game. That'd be cool.
All right, fellas. So the new, the very first preseason coaches poll came out, and I'm just going to go off the top four. Naturally, Georgia's number 1, Michigan's number 2, Alabama number 3, Ohio State number 4. Does that sound about right to you, PVH?
I wish they would do it and just say your schedules are so bad that Georgia, you're 9, and Michigan, you're 10.
Right.
And you're going to have to work your way up to 1 and 2.
Well, that's what the college football playoff
that's a good
rankings
point,
will do ultimately. But I agree with you. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, it's ridiculous how bad their schedules are. Yeah, we know they're good, right? But I'm just trying to make a point,
right.
It's are you going to know if Michigan's really that great? I guess they have, all the players and whatnot. They don't play. They play us and Penn State. That is it.
Yep.
Like that's ludicrous. And Georgia's even worse. So, but yeah, like we know they're good. We know they're good, but it should be a merit system, right? Like they shouldn't even, this was Doug's idea 6 years ago. Like don't rank anybody until you've seen them play 5 games.
Which is what the college football playoff committee does, basically. I think it's even more than 5 games. So thankfully for that.
It does. But you're asking me about the top 4 teams today. So I'm giving you my opinion today. Yep. We're not talking about what it's going to be in, December.
Right. That's true.
But let me ask you, all right, so yes, Michigan beat us last year. Okay. But they pulled their typical same bullshit in the playoff. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so we have, they had the dual-headed snake at running back, whatever. But like, we have more talent than we did last year, but yet they're at 2. I mean, I don't give 2 fucks about the preseason rankings, college cold. Like, I don't care anything about that really. But I just don't like. How do you put Michigan at 2 and us at 4? I don't.
How do you not? I mean,
they
they beat us by 3 touchdowns last year in the shoe. They got a bunch of guys coming back. They're pretty much all the important players are coming back for them. I got no problem with that. And let Michigan get all of their due respect from every corner of the college football universe. Let that hype train roll. I actually think this might be good for Ohio State for once, not to have the the burden of preseason expectations on them, and somebody else can carry that mantle. So I got no problem with them coming in at number 2. But it's interesting, though, not that, the coaches poll, between the coaches and the APA, it's the one that has the least amount of credibility. But Georgia got 61 first-place votes. Michigan did not get a first-place vote. Alabama got 4, and Ohio State got 1. And I think if you look at the Vegas odds, though I don't have them here in front of me, I believe Ohio State has better odds to win a national championship than Michigan. Do they not?
Oh, yeah, we're second best on the board.
We are. Okay.
Yeah.
So
we're second best on the board.
I think it's going to be great. This is exactly how we want it, right? Michigan's loaded. We're loaded. It's going to be a winner take all for the 3rd year in a row. And go ahead and give them their respect. They earned it. But I think look, you want to put Ohio State 3 or 4.
What has Harbaugh done in any bowl game that he's?
It's a good point.
Like,
he's on
they suck.
He's on a 6-game losing streak.
They also beat us 2 years in a row. We can't gloss
All right, well, whatever. 15 and 18, dude. They've won the last 2. We're 15 and 18.
And to your point, and the other side of that coin, you're right. Like, we gave Georgia everything they could handle. In so many ways should have won that game.
I mean, should have. I hate saying that word.
But then you can make the argument. But then again, look at it from the other side of the coin. Then how the fuck did we ever lose to Michigan?
Right.
Yeah.
We lost to them. You know?
Well, the thing that's even more confounding to me about what happened with Michigan, and I did a whole podcast on this, by the way, if you guys care to listen, it was a couple weeks ago, but my theory about how Ohio State lost the 2022 game was very different fashion on how they lost 2021. But most people will tell you that Georgia is a supersized version of Michigan. They do everything that Michigan does, but with better players. So, and there's this myth out there, this misconception that Ohio State can't hang in the trenches with Michigan. And if that's true, then how do you explain the Peach Bowl? because Ohio State was very much Georgia's equal, and they were doing it against better athletes than what Michigan was executing with.
I think that I wanted to didn't get the opportunity to applaud you on that. That is a very, very legit 5-star. That. I mean, they are it's almost like a supersized Michigan.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
we beat them on both sides of the field.
You go into the fourth quarter with a 2-touchdown lead in a playoff semifinal. You should expect to win, but we don't have to relitigate that. All right, Hey fellas, did you want to hit anything about recruiting, or we're well over an hour now, or do we want to save that for another day?
Well, I was going to go down the recruiting thing, but we've already been on here close to an hour. I just want to let everybody know that the Ohio State fans out there that and Paige being one of the little bitches, and I mean that in
affectionately,
the best loving way, Paige. But everybody, I wanted to go down the list. I'm going to say that for next week, or if we do a pod next week with the recruiting. Our recruiting is fucking really good, and we can't get every player. We just won't. We lost Lightfoot to Miami. Okay, we lost. They gave a big bag of cash. You know what I mean? But we're the number 2 class in the country.
That's right. Overall rank and composite rank.
Number 1 class.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And we have a 5. There was a lot of 4s and 5 stars all over that defense, and 24s already look we're good. We're not going to get every fucking 5-star blue chip kid, man. This is the way it is, and people just don't realize that, and they don't think about that. We're not going to You go down the list. If I went down the list right now, I'd tell the defensive backs. The 2 linebackers, we get that kid out of Texas. We get a 5-star quarterback. It's everybody needs to breathe.
Yeah, no, they're in good shape. Number 2 in the 24/7 overall ranking, and also in the composite rank, they're in pretty good shape. But I don't disagree with Jeremy Birmingham, who was talking about Ohio State's recruiting strategy, that maybe Ohio State is a little too committed to big game hunting for the absolute, creme de la creme of kids that are out of state. And when you do so much big game hunting and you put all your eggs in those baskets and you don't really have a backup plan, that's part of the problem with the recruiting strategy. And Birmingham made a really interesting point. He said, you go back and look at that 2014 defense, it was a sprinkling of 5-star out-of-state guys, the Von Bells, the Joey Bosa's and that sort of thing. But then there was actually quite a lot of local in-state guys, 3-star and 4-star guys. So it was a really nice balance. And I think Birmingham is saying, hey, why not aim for that? You align yourself with the top 5-star, out-of-state kids that, meet the character requirements and are kind of on board with, how you play. They're going to have a role with how you play. And then maybe you back off some of these other 5-star kids. You'll know who those are and focus more on the regional talent in the area and the diamonds in the rough in Ohio, which I thought that was a very interesting point by Birmingham, who knows a whole hell of a lot more about recruiting than I do. All right, boys. Hey, listen, I got to bounce. I'm starving. It was great to be with you guys. We will connect sometime in the coming weeks to talk a little bit more about fall camp. All right, boys? Have a great night. You've been listening to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and visit our website at southstandsosu.com.